Before video games, before playing cards, before Monopoly, there were boards. In Egypt, the game of Senet was played from at least 3100 BC. Two players moved pieces across a grid of 30 squares, throwing knucklebones or sticks instead of dice. But Senet was not just a game. Egyptians believed it mirrored the soul's journey through the afterlife. Playing it was a rehearsal for death, a way of navigating the dangers of the underworld. Workers played it in the shade of pyramids. Pharaohs were buried with Senet boards so they could play in eternity. The Romans loved tabula, an ancestor of backgammon. They played it obsessively, often for money. Gambling was technically illegal, but nobody cared. Dice clattered in every tavern, barrack, and dark corner of the forum. Emperors gambled, slaves gambled, soldiers carved crude dice from animal bones and gambled their wages away. When Emperor Augustus wrote letters to his friends, he joked about how much they had lost at dice the night before. The habit was universal. If you wanted pure, screaming, unhinged joy, you went to the Circus Maximus. It held over 150,000 people, and on race days, it was full. 4 factions, reds, whites, blues, greens, fielded charioteers who risked their lives for glory. The best of them became the richest athletes in Roman history. One charioteer, Gaius Apuleius Diocles, earned an estimated 35 million sesterces, enough to pay the entire Roman army for several months. The crowd did not sit quietly. They screamed, cursed, and threw things at rival supporters. Rivalry between the blues and greens in Constantinople was so fierce it exploded into the Nika riots, killing tens of thousands and nearly toppling an emperor. This was not gentle entertainment. It was sport as identity, sport as near war. And yet, for the ordinary person in the stands, it was the highlight of the week. The ancients knew how to throw a party, and many of those parties were on the calendar. In Rome, Saturnalia was the most anticipated week of the year. Beginning December 17th, the social order flipped. Slaves were served at table by their masters. Gambling was openly permitted. Gifts were exchanged. Candles, figurines, joke presents. The streets filled with singing, feasting, and public drunkenness that would have been scandalous any other time. A philosopher might write about dignity, but during Saturnalia, he was just as likely to be found dancing in the street. For a few days, the rigid world of Roman class collapsed into laughter and chaos. Roman baths were not just for washing. They were leisure centers, art galleries, libraries, and meeting places all in one. A Roman could spend an entire afternoon moving between the hot room, the cold plunge, and the exercise yard. He might play a board game in the portico, listen to a poet recite in the garden, or buy a sausage from a vendor just outside the door. The baths were one of the few places where rich and poor mingled freely, stripped of rank. In the steam, a senator and a cobbler were just two sweating bodies. Conversations that would never happen in the forum happened here, in the warm, echoing halls. People in the ancient world laughed at the same things we do. Jokes about marriage, about bosses, about bodily functions, about the absurdity of life. Graffiti on the walls of Pompeii is full of lewd humor, insults, and puns. One reads, Apollinaris, physician of Emperor Titus, had a good bowel movement here. Another says, I wonder, O wall, that you have not fallen in ruins from the boring scribblings of so many writers. The past was not solemn. It was full of people trying to make each other smile.